Hey guys, welcome to another recent viewing video. I just got done a few minutes ago watching a movie entitled The Maze Runner, as you probably saw in the title. And I'm trying to really quickly throw together some thoughts about it before I have to go take care of some stuff. But I wanted to do these. I tend to end up doing these videos not immediately after watching the movie, but like the next day or something. So anyway, The Maze Runner. I just figure I should start off by saying I'm not familiar with the source material that this came from. I know it's based on a book or a series of books that I didn't know anything about until I remember seeing advertisements for this movie in the theaters. And I didn't think much about it. I mean, I haven't had a whole lot of money to spend on stuff. When I do, books have been one of the least prioritized items. I'd like to change that again soon because books had been a big thing for me here recently, but right now they're not so much. So I do want to read these books at some point, but as far as the movie goes, I enjoyed it quite well. So whether I get to read the books before the next movie comes out or I just hit up the series, the movie series before I touch the books, who knows. But my thoughts on the movie, especially as a person who had no experience with the source material. Like I said before, I did like it. I enjoyed it quite a bit. It was weird. It was exciting. It was intriguing. At times it was super typical and predictable. It did kill me a few times just how much I was like, ugh, I should have seen that coming because it was so obvious. But those moments were the exception and not the rule. So a little bit of an idea what the movie is about. I think any talk about this movie would be remiss without talking about things like The Hunger Games, Divergent, and a few other things like that. These teen movies, I don't know what the proper term, I guess, would be. Teen action thrillers. Well, on the Wikipedia page, it's called an American science fiction dystopian action thriller film, and it doesn't even really talk about the teen aspect of it, but it's another teen movie in that the protagonists that you follow the story of are all teens and are all thrust into some sort of a crazy predicament in some sort of a dystopian future where for whatever reason or another we treat our teenagers like shit. That's the way it is in Divergent. That's obviously the way it was in The Hunger Games. If you haven't seen that by now, you probably can't get a full grasp of The Maze Runner, but it's very much like that. Kids wake up in this new situation. The kid that the movie kind of focuses around is a kid named Thomas. He wakes up in this like cage, but it's like an elevator that's being taken up to the top of something. And once he gets up there, there's a bunch of other kids that open it up and start calling him Green and Greenie and Green Bean and all kinds of wonderfully affectionate terms for, I guess, the fact that he's the new kid on the block. Roughly once every month, a new kid is brought up. The longest of any of the kids who've been there have been there for roughly 3 years, and they just have this big plot of land with big walls around them and lush greenery, forests. They're able to, I mean, it's not super huge, but they do have forest or woods in their area. They have water. They have the ability to plant crops, and they are able to make it. They're able to be self-sufficient in this crazy situation that they're in. And like I said, Thomas finds out that he's the latest arrival. There's also usually some supplies sent up with each one of these people. I should mention that. Once the person is offloaded and the supplies are offloaded, the elevator goes back down, and there's no escaping that way because it's just a chasm down below. And this guy Thomas is like super curious. He wants to know about everything that's going on. I mean, most people would if they were thrust in that situation. I guess I should point out the fact that their memory is wiped, so they don't even know their own name, let alone anything else. Their name comes back to them within a day or two, but not much of anything else is ever remembered by these kids. And they are set to survive in this predicament. And the only way out, the only wiggle room, so to speak, that they have is this one door that opens up every morning and then in the evening closes back up. And behind it is this crazy maze. And this maze actually surrounds the entire little square where they are at. They only have that one inside and outside, or one in and out access point. And they have different groups in their camp, and this one particular group called the Runners, hence the name, the Maze Runner. They actually go into the maze, search for supplies, search for a way out. They've been doing it almost since they've been there, and they actually have mapped out the entire maze, and they know when things change, because at night, when that closes, the maze on the outside changes. Things open and things close, things move, and they've had their chance to kind of map it out and know where they can go and what they can do in the time that they have. But at night, when it shuts down, these things called grievers come out. And basically, this was one of my stickler points for this movie. Basically, they're like these gigantic hybrid robotic / organic creatures, sort of like spiders mixed with scorpions mixed with these nasty alien-looking faces. And like I said, they're a mix of both organic material and robotic material. It looks like a crazy horror film alien / spider creature in parts of its body, and other parts are robotic spider legs and this big tail thing that comes down and grabs people, and it gets pretty violent. Not bloody, so to speak, but it gets awfully violent. I actually do not know right off the top of my head what the... It looks like it's PG-13. I wanted to see what the rating for it was. It's pretty intense for PG-13, I gotta tell you. But anyway, this Thomas guy, because I said before, he's very curious, and he wants to know what's out there. He wants to question everything. He's all over the place in this movie as far as like being a dynamo and trying to rally them together and see what they have done and see what they do know. And at one point, one of the runners who had went out had gotten stung by one of these grievers during the day when they're not supposed to be out, which was weird because I don't remember them talking about that at that point in the movie. And then all of a sudden, Thomas has to go into the woods, to get something. I can't remember now what it was. He had to go get something for them in the woods. And when he's out there, he gets confronted by this Ben, who was one of the runners. And he'd been stung, and his eyes are weird, and he's got like that tentacle vein thing going on that you actually see in quite a lot of movies lately. And he accuses Thomas of being the culprit, like it's your fault that this is all happening right now. Attacks him, and Thomas runs back to the camp with Ben chasing after him, and come to find out, that he was stung during the daytime when they're not supposed to be out like that. So Ben ends up having to be exiled, basically, because the sting from that thing causes them to go crazy, causes them to become aggressive. Eventually it will kill them, but they can take other people out with them. So they forcefully exile him into the maze as it closes one night. Well, of course, the next day he's gone, and one of the runners, I can't remember, I changed it off of this thing here, Mino, he's kind of like the main runner guy, I guess you would say. He goes out, but he goes out with Albie, who's basically the leader of this group, who calls himself the Gladers. That wasn't, in my opinion, ever really covered either in the movie as to why it was called the Glade, but regardless, Mino and Albie go out one day, and they push it right at the very end. They're just barely getting back, and Albie is injured, once again stung by a griever who was out when they weren't supposed to be. And Thomas runs through the closing gate, and begins sort of like this first adventure out in the maze at night when nobody has ever survived it. But he, of course, here's a predictable thing, but it's acceptable in my opinion, they survive a night, kill a griever in fact, and get a piece of technology from it that they're able to use to discover, a way out of the maze, or at least they hope a way out. Anyway, I feel like I'm spending too much time talking about the plot of the movie, but it was good. I mean, like I said, it was exciting, but there were all these moments. And see, this is one of those things where if I can't do this while I'm watching the movie, which I could never do, I'm going to forget some of the parts of the movie. I guess I will use this here. Yeah, this is exciting, isn't it? Reapers of Dust. Okay, well, there was another character in the movie named Gally who kind of seemed like he was going to be an antagonist for Thomas, which basically he was. And he starts blaming Thomas for everything that's happening. And he's the one who wants to stay and not leave and not break the status quo, and, you know, quite often does a lot of things against Thomas because of what happens. A few days after Thomas had come up, another girl or another person comes up in the elevator, which is, you know, unprecedented. It's always a month. And there's no supplies with this person, and it turns out to be a female, Teresa, who also ends up being somebody that Thomas remembers vaguely in his dreams from before all this stuff had went down. Which, I guess, just in the end, Thomas ends up being redeemed for things that, in all actuality, in my opinion, wasn't really his fault. I don't know, that's probably awkward for me to say that, because what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to circumvent any possible spoilers. But it's really, really hard for me to, like I said, remember every last little moment in the movie, even though I just got done watching it. It's kind of ridiculous. But anyway, the movie was good. Like I said, it had some moments in it that were very predictable. Very much I was like, you know, why? Character dies and they had information, and you're like, oh my god, they better reveal what's going on by the time this movie is over, or it's going to piss me off that person doesn't get a chance to contribute their information. You have some characters who don't survive to the end, who you were pretty sure were going to. And, you know, so it tugs at the heartstrings a little bit, but once again, it racks my brain that people think that you have to kill off characters to make a point or to have that resonance. It bothered me just a little bit, but, you know, whatever. The movie is what it is. The books, I'm sure, were what they are. Like I said, I did enjoy it. It had some really thrilling and exciting parts to it. I actually thought the movie was going to have more to do with the running itself, like these people had to run through these mazes, like that was part of a competition or something. So that surprised me. If you haven't seen the movie or read the book, and you might have gotten that same idea, you know, I'm here to let you know that it isn't about actually running the maze as some sort of a competition to survive. It's for them to try to figure out a way to get out and survive. But anyway, I guess that's my 2 cents on this. This didn't really come out like I wanted it to, but I guess in the end, whether I go on for 5 minutes or 20 minutes or an hour, the end result is this was an enjoyable movie. I liked it. I want to see the next movie or movies. I want to read the books. It was good as one of those nice, you know, escape movies, just to go get engrossed in another world, and the little issues be damned, you know. So anyway, that's it. The Maze Runner, good stuff. And I should be doing some more of these here soon. I actually have I probably between 5 and 10 movies queued up in my Vudu list right now that I have between 2 weeks and a month to watch. So I may have said that already in a previous video, but expect more of these very, very soon, because I want to get back into watching some good movies and whatnot. And there's some good stuff coming out soon. So anyway, I'm done. I got to get going. I'll see you guys next time. Thanks for watching.